Welcome to my channel. Hi, I'm Tanya. In today's video, I'll be making caldo de res, and I'm going to show you how to go from here to here. Let's get started. Here are all the ingredients we'll be needing in order to make caldo de res and rice, and I will link them in the description below. Let's begin by preparing our meats. I actually use two types of beef for our caldo de res. I'm using a top round roast because I prefer leaner cuts of beef. I also use soup bone because my husband prefers a more marbled meat and it gives the soup a lot of flavor. I'm cutting my roast into cubes to make the pieces a little more bite-sized. They may look a little bit large, but keep in mind that they will shrink as they cook. And the pieces I'm cutting right now, I will wind up cutting again into smaller pieces because that is the thickest part of the roast. Now that our roast is cut into cubes, I'm going to open up our soup bone. Now I'm going to prep the beef by sprinkling salt and pepper all over it. I'll flip the soup bone and sprinkle it with salt and pepper as well. I'm going to set my stove to high and pour in some olive oil. I'll let that heat up and then I'll add my pot roast in so I can brown it. I'm going to give it a little stir and then I'm going to sprinkle some more salt and pepper on the roast to cover the areas that weren't able to get salt and peppered earlier. I'll just continue to stir it so that all sides of the roast will get browned, and so it doesn't burn because I do have it on high heat. Now I'm just moving the roast over to the sides of the pot so that I can put the soup bone in the center so that I can start to brown that. I'm going to wipe my counter with a Clorox wipe since I was handling raw meat in this area. While the soup bone and roast are browning, I'm going to prep my onion and garlic. I'll slice it and dice it. Now I'm going to prep 1 clove of garlic. I'll slice it and dice it into minced garlic. If you don't have onion or fresh garlic, you can substitute these items with onion powder and garlic powder instead. Just sprinkle some into your liking or start with a 1/4 teaspoon and then taste and see. Add more if you think it needs more. Now I'm going to flip the soup bone over so it can brown on the other side. Now that the soup bone and roast are browned, I'm going to add in the garlic and onion to saute. I'll stir the garlic and onion so that it doesn't burn. Now I'm going to add 1 can of Petite diced tomatoes, 1 can of tomato sauce, and a carton of beef broth to the pot. Once I add these liquids to the pot, it will stop the onion and garlic from continuing to saute. Now I'm going to stir it and put the lid back on. Then I'll reduce my heat to low and set my timer for 45 minutes so that the meat can cook low and slow. While my meat is cooking for the next 45 minutes, I am going to prep my vegetables. I'll start by peeling my potatoes. You can add 2 to 3 potatoes to your soup depending on the size of your pot and if you like potatoes. I personally love them, so I added 3 to our soup. Next, I'll be adding 2 handfuls of carrots. I usually use 2 long carrots, but our grocery store was out of them, so I'm using these instead. If you love carrots, add more. If you don't, add less. Now I'm going to prep our cabbage by just removing the 2 outer cabbage leaves. Now I'm going to just open up my frozen corn packaging. I prefer to use frozen corn because it's already shucked and cut and it's the perfect size to fit in my pot. Next, I'll be chopping the carrots into more bite-sized pieces. Now I'm going to slice and quarter my potatoes. Before I add my potatoes and carrots, I want to add my spices in because it will be easier to stir all the spices and blend them well without all the vegetables in there first. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of Knorr Caldo de Res and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground Comino. Now I'm adding a cube of frozen cilantro that I found in our freezer section at our grocery store. You can use fresh cilantro if you'd like. Now that all the spices have been mixed in well, I'm going to add the carrots and potatoes to the soup next. Because they take the longest to cook, I'm adding them in first so they can start to cook. Now I'm going to prep our cabbage. I'll slice it and then cut it into long strips. If you're enjoying this video, please click the like button. It helps my channel grow. I appreciate it. I'm only using half of the head of cabbage. Now that the cabbage is prepped and cut into strips, I'm going to add it to the top of my soup. Now I'm going to place 4 ears of corn in the pot. Then I'll set my timer for 45 minutes so that the vegetables and the meat can continue to cook on low for 45 minutes. Let's start our rice. I'll set the stove to medium-high heat and add some oil to a pan. Then I'll measure half a cup of rice and add it to the oil so it can brown. I'll stir it so that the oil coats the rice and also so that it doesn't burn. It only takes a few minutes to brown the rice. This is what it should look like, not translucent, white mixed with brown. Then I'll quickly add 2 cups of water so the rice doesn't burn. Next, I'll add 2 teaspoons of Knorr Caldo de Tomate con Sabor de Pollo. Then I'll stir the spices in so that they're blended very well. Now I'm going to put the lid on, reduce the heat to low, and set my timer for 30 minutes. Cooking times can vary on rice, so if you find that your rice has too much liquid, continue to cook it for another 5 to 10 minutes, checking it every 5 minutes to make sure it doesn't burn. While my rice was cooking, I washed the dishes I had dirtied and I set the table for dinner. If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. It helps my channel to grow. I thank you in advance for subscribing. The rice is ready, so now I'm just going to turn the corn over onto its other side. If you're interested in another dinner idea, I have a recipe for a hot out of the oven chicken pot pie. I'll link it in the description below. The caldo is almost ready, so I'm going to start to heat up some corn tortillas. I don't know about you, but I love to roll up my corn tortilla and dunk it into the juice of the caldo. It's so good. I'm gonna leave these last two on here because my husband likes his a little more toasty. The caldo is ready, so it's time to serve it. I'll start with a little spoon of rice at the bottom of the bowl. Then I'll add the caldo de res on top. Our temperatures went from the 80s down to the 40s and 30s within a 24-hour period, so it was perfect weather for caldo. The other good part is that we always have leftovers and I don't have to cook the next day. Caldo. This is how we eat our caldo de res. A bowl of caldo, corn on the cob with a pat of butter, and 2 warm corn tortillas on the side. Thanks for watching. Bye.